Hey, welcome to another edition of Hucks on Pucks. I'm your host Kyle Huckins, and today we're talking the Central Division. As usual, we're going to start from the bottom and work our way to the top. At the bottom, number 5. Sorry, Ohio. You know, you had a bad year last year. And I can tell you, it's not going to get much better this year. Obviously, the big deal was trading Rick Nash to the Rangers for Brandon Dubinsky, Artem Anisimov, and Tim Erickson. Tim Erickson's the guy you're going to want to hang your hat on in this deal. These are 3 guys I do know, well, 2 guys I know quite a bit about. I didn't get to see Erickson play so much, but I'm a big Rangers fan and did catch a lot of their games. And Nisimov's a solid forward. He's actually very good at drawing penalties. So if you guys can get any kind of a power play going, he's going to be very useful. He's not the most talented guy, but he's very big. Uses his size well. Although his hockey sense, he takes quite a few hits. You can take him because he's a big guy, but he doesn't always see him coming. Then you got Brandon Dubinsky, who's probably going to be your first-line center after spending all of last couple seasons on left wing. He's going to drive you fucking nuts. He really is. He's a very good penalty killer. He's got an incredible knack for springing odd man rushes, especially while shorthanded. But when that happens, don't get excited. Because when he did it with the Rangers, they never scored. They scored on, I think, 1 the whole time he was a Ranger. I don't know how many. At least seemed like at least once a game he'd generate a 2-on-1 break. But you didn't even get out of your seat. It's like, oh, it's Dubinsky. Half the time it ended up not even getting a shot on goal. And last year, yeah, his numbers were down. But if you watched him play, he stunk. I forgot he was on the ice roughly 80% of the time. Like, he wasn't involved. He wasn't really a few of the games I remember, the only reason I remember him playing is because every now and then he'd have one of those games where he would just take stupid penalty after stupid penalty. I mean, he's a good athlete. He's got hands. He can finish. I mean, I'm figuring he'll probably be better for you this year than he was at the Rangers last year. Because he'd almost have to be. He was really, really bad. You know, he was. And every time it seemed like he was going to turn the corner, he'd disappear for 5 games. Well, maybe the fresh start in Columbus is what he needs. That said, on his best day, he can't touch Rick Nash. Rick Nash is a very good player, and I'm very excited to see him on the Rangers. Can't fucking wait to see him on the Rangers. Yeah, but up front, not a whole lot to talk about. You know, top line could be Dubinsky, Anisimov, and R.J. Umberger. wouldn't be crazy about that as my second line. And that's probably going to be your top line. You also got a third former Ranger. Probably on the second line, Václav Prospal. Also, along with Dubinsky, one of the greatest goal faces in the NHL. Seriously, I think the two of them should be a competition to see which one of them can open their mouth wider during a celebration. I'm pretty sure Prospal can unhinge his jaw like a constrictor and just swallow small mammals whole. It's very impressive. You kind of miss the guy, but given a 38-year-old a 2-year deal with a no trade and the guarantee of a front office job when he's done, Scott Howson, what the hell are you thinking? I can kind of see doing that if you're in contention. Then you figure that Prospal's particular skill set may be able to get you over the top. Columbus was the worst team in the league last year. And I don't think you're going to be any better this year. Well, I think they'll be an improved team over last year. I'll get to how. But they're still going to be bad. Yeah, up front, this team struggled to score goals when they had Rick Nash. Now they don't have Rick Nash. Yeah, offensively, I'm not seeing a lot to be psyched about. On the other hand, guys actually have pretty decent defense. Not an elite defense by any stretch, but honestly on the blue line, guys are fairly solid. You know, Teuton's been great for you guys. And I believe he's been playing with Nikita Nikitin. Those two have been very good. James Wisniewski, he's alright, but signing him to a 6-year deal off that career year, that's another one of those moments where you just gotta wonder how the hell Howson still got his job. And you might get a little bit of thunder from back there from Jack Johnson, because he is a talented offensive player. In his own end, he's a bit of a calamity. But I think it might be okay back there. Especially because, and believe it or not, I think this was the biggest deal for Columbus, not the Nash signing, was acquiring Sergei Bobrovsky from the Flyers to play goal. And first of all, it tells you what deep shit you're in when you improve your goaltending by acquiring a netminder from the Flyers. Seriously, I know as a Rangers fan, I'm spoiled with Lundqvist, but if I improved my team's goalie by making a trade with the Flyers, I'd fucking drink bleach. I really would. That said, I actually kind of like Bobrovsky. I always felt Laviolette mishandled him quite badly. He's, even with Carolina, even when they won the Cup in Carolina, he's rather panicky with his goaltending. Add to that the fact that Philadelphia hasn't had solid goaltending for a generation now, and it just got comical over there. So, I'm thinking a fresh start for Bobrovsky could be just what they need. If anything, maybe he can push Steve Mason to not be terrible. Because he had that great rookie season where he won the Calder. He got them their only playoff berth ever. And the 3 seasons since, he's been garbage. Now, maybe this is the spark he needs to get back to his rookie form. Well, that and like finding out he could wear larger pads than he had been. Apparently no one knew that. So, yeah. Like I said, I think you guys will be better this year. But I don't think they'll be very good. You know, they're going to bring up the rear in this division and most likely the conference. I think a lot of people are underestimating how bad Calgary is going to be, but I think Columbus is going to be worse. Alright, we're going to move to 4th place. And believe it or not, deciding who's going to finish 4th is a tough decision this year because unfortunately both the Predators and the Red Wings took some big hits. But I'm going to have Nashville 4th. I mean, you kept Rene and you kept Suter. You kept 2 of the 3. I'm sorry, and you kept Weber, not Suter, dummy. You lost Suter to the Wild. That's a big hit. Especially since you guys had a top-ranked power play. Losing Suter is gonna hurt bad. You also switched backup goalies because you traded Anders Lindback to the Tampa Bay Lightning for some draft picks. I'll get to that trade when I talk about Tampa. And you brought in former Predator, Blue, and Jet Chris Mason to replace. Mason's a serviceable backup. I think they may lose a little bit there, but not much. Obviously, Rene is still a franchise goaltender. You know, he's a Vezina finalist. All set in goal. On defense, you still have Shea Weber. He's going to generate a lot of your offense. Beyond that, you have a fairly nondescript stay-at-home group like Scott Hannon, Hal Gill, and Kevin Kline, who in his spare time is also one of my favorite actors. Kline actually showed a bit of offense last year, which is good because, as is the case almost every year, not a lot of punch up front. That's why I've got you guys 4th, is I think this team's really going to struggle to score goals. Especially losing Suter, because you guys made a lot of hay off the power play. So you're probably going to have to do a lot more at even strength. Well, last I checked, you've got Mike Fisher centering your first line. Mike Fisher's a good player. He's a second line center, though. And you've got him on the first. Down the middle is okay. With him, Legwand, and Gaustad as your top 3. Paul Gaustad's a kind of an underrated player. He's got some hands. He can win face-offs. He's a good third-line center. David Legwand's basically been Mr. Predator since he got there. As the first ever draft pick by the team, spent his whole career there. He very much is the Nashville Predators. And clearly the man still got game. Wings. Ooh. Wings are a little weak. I mean, Martin Erat's a decent player. He shouldn't be on your top line, though. I do like Patrick Hornquist. He likes to get involved. He's around the net a lot. He's not a great scorer, but he can get to the net, and he can pot some goals. Most talented player is probably Sergei Kostitsyn. After Predators decided to wave goodbye to his brother Andre, they also lost Alex Radulov. After the documented issues, his contract with him leaving for the KHL, coming back, staying out all night. Probably for the best that both sides just made a clean break there. But yeah. It's a team that they don't really have. They've got a good collection of forwards. They don't really have those one or two game breakers that a contender's going to need. And I think losing Suter is going to hurt the offense too much. I've got you guys dropping all the way to 4th. Still a definite chance to make the playoffs, though. No, I think the only truly bad team in this division is Columbus. Columbus are just not going to be good. Okay. Now, we move to 3rd place, where we got the Detroit Red Wings. Man, that just feels weird to say. It been a rough offseason in the Motor City. Thomas Holmstrom announced his retirement. Nick Lidstrom retired. It's going to be weird not seeing number 5 on the blue line for you guys. You also lost Brad Stewart to the Sharks, so you lost 2 of your top 6 on a pretty good defense, and you guys have been hemorrhaging defensemen for a while. It's a pretty nondescript group back there. I mean, okay, Nick Cronwall still scares the hell out of everything because he can crush, kill, destroy. But, Kyle Quincy and Ian White are among your best defensemen. They're good players. But, that defense is pretty thin right now. I'm not feeling great about that defense if I'm Ken Holland. In goal, you got Jimmy Howard, who's got his work cut out for him this year. Especially because not only is that defense thin, but your backups between Joey McDonald and Jonas Gustafsson of the Toronto Maple Leafs. McDonald's been pretty much an AHL lifer. But he does get into the league here and there. Gustafsson, I know he was on bad teams in Toronto, but he's not good. Jimmy Howard's probably going to play 40 of the 48 games this year, at least. Maybe 45. Because talking about this out loud, I'm really not sure why I'm putting Detroit ahead of them. Ahead of Nashville right now. Oof. But I know I am. Because up front, they're still fantastic team. Got the mule Johan Franzen. Pavel Datsyuk. One of those guys that when he's got the puck, you just want to watch him dangle all night long. Seriously, that man just does absolutely stupid, awesome things with that puck. Just, it's one of those, he could be playing your team and you're still thinking, I really want Datsyuk to get a breakaway. Yeah, I know he'll score on my team, but my God, he'll look awesome doing it. The man's just got crazy moves. It's a beautiful thing to watch. And you got Henrik Zetterberg, who's also the new captain. Taking over from walking in the footsteps of Howe, Yzerman, and Lidstrom. I think you'll be good, but Henrik, good luck, man. Those are some big skates. That's actually a pretty nasty group for Detroit this year. Especially on the right wing, where you've got Todd Bertuzzi, who's had something of a renaissance in Detroit. Still a scumbag, but he's pretty much rebuilt his career there. And speaking of scumbags on the right wing, they got Jordan Tutu of the Predators. So I'm expecting a lot of goalie interference penalties against the Wings this year. As usual, like I said, the forwards, they'll score, especially Valtteri Filppula, who's been improving the past few years. He's definitely looking like a legit second-line center. I mean, they've still got guys like Dan Cleary on the third line. He's not a great player, but you know what? For a third liner, he does score quite a bit. So that's why I've got Detroit. Because I do like Jimmy Howard in that. I think they can score enough to overcome the. I don't think that defense is terrible. But it's a little thin. I think that could be a tough spot for the Wings, but I'm still picking them third. All right, number 2, I got the Blackhawks. First of all, they've got continuity on their side. They're pretty much bringing back the same team. And that team can score like mad. Whew. You know, you got your top line of Kane, Taves, and Sharp. John Taves, who fully recovered, he came back from concussion last year. You figure he's probably fully recovered by now. Possibly the best all-around player in the NHL. Now, he's one of those guys, you hand him the stick, you tell him what to do, he'll do it. Seriously, I think if they told him to play defense, he'd do it. Put him in goal, he'd do it. There's no aspect of the game he's not good at. He kills penalties, works the power play, he's great at even strength, can win face-offs no problem. The man does it all. Another one of those guys, I would kill to have on the Rangers. Not that I'm complaining about my team this year, but Patrick Kane could be a bit of a wild card because he had issues last season. He was very inconsistent. But he is one of those guys, I do feel like they can get him going. And when they get him going, he's a dynamic offensive player. Just great speed, great hands. He is terrifying if he's on the other team. Patrick Sharp is really, for a guy who they got for almost nothing from Philly, shown himself to be a very good player. I mean, granted, he's been surrounded with good offensive talent in Chicago, but that doesn't guarantee you're still going to score. Sharp's held up his end of the deal. Now, that top line, that's a top-heavy group of forwards. Although they do have Marian Hossa on the second line. Hossa's arguably a Hall of Famer at this point. He's another guy. He's great defensively and offensively. He's a fantastic penalty killer. He's not the offensive powerhouse he used to be with Ottawa, but he can still put the biscuit in the basket. Victor Stahlberg has shown last year that he's actually a fairly competent offensive player. He's, well, not in Florida anymore. I think there might be something to do with the water in Florida. I don't know. And you got young Marcus Kruger centering the second line. Still got Dave Bolland, the Canuck killer, on the third line. So he'll make those Vancouver games interesting. You know, he's got some talent. And he just... In fact, I remember they're expecting more offense from him next year. I wonder if they might even try him on the second line. But he's a good player. It's very involved. He's very physical. Remember, he gave the Canucks fits a few years ago. They had no answer for him. So, yeah, I'm definitely a fan of the Chicago forwards. Except Dan Carcillo. Seriously, fuck that guy. I mean, he's shown he has some talent. But he's a goalie running cheap shot artist who I can't stand. Seriously, he's up there with Scott Hartnell on my list of NHL players I would not spit on if they were on fire. Okay. Now to the defense. That's a pretty solid group. Now you still got Keith and Seabrook as your top pair. That's a fantastic top pair right there. Now Keith's better all-around defenseman. He's got a Norris Trophy to his name. Seabrook might be a better defensive defenseman. And you still got Nick Hjalmarsson from the Cup run a few years ago. Nick Leddy's shown he can be a decent defenseman. I mean, for your third pair, you got your choice of Johnny Oduya, Michael Roosevelt, Steve Montador, and Sheldon Brookbank. That's a pretty decent group for your third pair. Michael Roosevelt will drive you nuts. As a Rangers fan, I can tell you that. He's notoriously slow starter. But he can be very good, too. He's got talent, you never quite know when it's going to show up. Now we move to the trouble spot. Corey Crawford's not reminding anyone of Tony Esposito or Ed Belfour. He was inconsistent last season until the playoffs, where he was brutal against the Coyotes. He was just bad. Backing him up, probably going to have Ray Emery, who's managed to resurrect his career in an impressive fashion. But he's still going to be your backup. Or the two might even be splitting time. Honestly, I never thought Emery was all that great back when he was in Ottawa. So, yeah, I do think Chicago's going to have issues in goal. But I think that your defense and your offense can really contain a lot of that. So I don't think the goaltending is going to hurt them too much during the season. That's why I think they're going to come in second. So who's going to win the division? I got to go with the Blues. And bring back pretty much the same team. You've got... I don't know if the goaltending's going to be as good. Because... Trust Yaroslav Halak. But Brian Elliott, well, was that the real Brian Elliott? Or was that a fluke? Also, I'm not crazy about teams where the goaltending situation... Where goalies are splitting time. I like a more defined goalie situation. Although, to be honest... Elliott was not great after Halak went down in the playoffs. That said, I think they'll be fine. I think Halak will end up being the starter. But it looks like you've got a fairly good backup in Brian Elliott. In defense, it's Ken Hitchcock's stock in trade. And he's got a pretty good group of defensemen to work with here. Alex Pietrangelo had his breakout year. He became okay, you play 25, 30 minutes a night, do whatever we need you to do. And he's done it. And you got Kevin Shattenkirk riding shotgun, who's been very good for them. He's in the middle of a very good rookie season in Colorado when he got traded the Eric Johnson deal. Deal that's worked out fairly well for both sides, actually. Second pair of... Not a lot of offense on that. But Roman Polak and former Calder winner Barrett Jackman, very solid in their own end. Got no issues up there. Then beyond that, your third pair is alright. Nothing great. But your third pair defenseman. Honestly, that top four is going to get the bulk of... As with any team, the top four is going to play the bulk of the time anyway. But especially that top four. It's a very good top four. Up front, you've got a young team that honestly should probably score more than it does. Then again, if Chris Stewart has a renaissance, that could happen. Because first, when they got him from Colorado, he went on an absolute rampage at the end of the season. Last year, he was not nearly as good. I think he'll be better. Also, you should finally get a full season out of David Perron. Very talented offensive player, but he has been hurt. You can keep him on the ice, you're in good shape. Down the middle, pretty solid team with Backus, Berglund, and Alex Steen. It's not like Pittsburgh's 1-2-3 punch from last year, but that's a very solid group of centermen. Especially Backus, who's actually very similar to Taze, really. He's a great defensive forward, but he can score too. He's the American Jonathan Taze. Or is Taze the Canadian Backus? He's a guy I really like. But I think Stewart will be okay. I think he'll come back. Andy McDonald, he's been hurt a lot. But when he's played, he has produced for the Blues. That's the thing. If they can keep him on the ice, they're in pretty good shape. So even though they had a lot of offensive trouble last year, I kind of feel like they're going to score more this year. And I think they'll probably give up as many goals as they did last year, which is to say, not a whole lot. They may not win the Jennings Trophy again, but they'll be in consideration. So yeah, that's my preview for the Central. Again, I apologize to hockey fans in Ohio, but your team is just not very good. As Hooks on Pucks, and we're going off for 2, and we'll be right back.